I didn't really grow up reading comic books, but there's one thing that I do remember about many of those stories that it was always easy to tell who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. Right? The good guys were always the ones who were had the perfectly coiffed hair, Superman's little S there on his forehead, and the bad guys always had some evil snarl on their face. It was always easy to tell who the good guys were and the bad guys were, and the good guys always overcame the bad guys. The good guys always won every single time. They yes, they resorted to violence, but they always did so because it was the last resort, and they always ended up winning in the long run. And the bad guys always deserved to be punished, and the good guys were always the ones who did it, but they always did it just enough. Right? They never overstepped those bounds. And sometimes as a person who is familiar with those stories, I want to assume, and maybe you do too, that the world is just as simple. That the good guys are always easy to identify, and the bad guys are always easy to identify, and the good guys always win, and the bad guys always lose, and the bad guys are always punished, and the good guys always do it just to the right amount, and they never overstep the limits that are just inherently obvious to all of us. We want the world to look that way, but the truth is the world does not look that way. There's no such thing as a completely innocent, holy group or individual like Superman. We don't have any Supermen. And there's no such thing as a Lex Luthor either. Even though we might want to look at one side of violence or the other and say, well, they're obviously the bad guys and they're obviously the good guys, the truth is the world's not that simple. The world is not that black and white. And as soon as we do that, as soon as we identify one group as Superman and the other as Lex Luthor, as soon as we identify one group as Batman and the other as the Joker, what happens is we dehumanize the Joker. We dehumanize Lex Luthor because we assume that there is nothing good or redeemable about them. And on the other side of the coin, we assume that our Superman is justified in whatever he may choose to do to bring justice to Lex Luthor. This is true in any conflict. And we right now are watching conflict flare in the Middle East, in Israel, really all over the place. And our temptation is to say, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. Interestingly, some people will say that Israel's the good guy and Hamas is the bad guy, but some people will say Hamas is the good guy and Israel's the bad guy. And the truth is they're both right. That neither side is Superman and neither side is Lex Luthor. And I think that what we really need to be able to do is to recognize that in every scenario like this, everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. And everybody does things that maybe if they had to do it over again, they wouldn't. And the truth is that it doesn't matter what side you're on, people you love are being hurt. That violence is never the answer. And that dehumanization only leads to more ugliness and more violence. My prayer is not for one side or the other. My prayer is for peace. That's what I want to see. For the sake of Israel, for the sake of Palestine, for the sake of the world, my prayer is for peace.